Next, we'll go on to an interesting topic on vitamin D and women's health. We all know that until recently, vitamin D used to be considered as a secondary nutrient and in association with calcium metabolism, but we know that it has a lot of health issues and implications. So I call upon Dr. Vagish Iyer to give us a talk on this subject. He is an additional professor from Department of Endocrinology from St. John's Medical College, Bangalore. Over to Dr. Vagish Iyer.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Dr. Krishna Seshadri and team for your kind invitation. I think my talk was supposed to be for 20 minutes. I see only 15 minutes displayed on the time. I'll try to cover as much as possible in the given time. There is renewed interest in the vitamin D because earlier it was known only for the nutritional deficiency and the skeletal effects, but we are knowing more and more about the extraskeletal benefits because vitamin D receptors are expressed in 35 target tissues which are of non-skeletal origin. And it is important for men's and women's health, but here mainly I'll be speaking on women's health. There are certain facts about vitamin D we should know. It is not a true vitamin. It is synthesized in the skin by irradiation of the sunlight. It goes through some metabolism in liver and a kidney to become active vitamin D. Most important, timing of sun exposure in the outdoors between 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock or 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. is essential. India was known as a sunshine country with no vitamin E deficiency earlier, but we get lots of publication now suggesting India vitamin D deficient country. The important reason being most of us are indoors between this 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. duration. And also there is national policy lacking for food fortification. Why it is important? Traditionally we know that it is important to prevent rickets. That's how it started knowing. Subsequently osteomalacia in women, then osteoporosis in postmenopausal women. But what is new, what we are learning now, or you are going to be going to tell you is non-skeletal benefits of a vitamin D. That is, after conversion in kidney macrophages, what it does is it improves calcium homeostasis, which is well known. It has got a implication in cardiovascular metabolism, immunomodulation, and also in the cancer prevention. This we should know. This is one of the most important slides which I want to focus for a long time. This is phylogenetically we have got two important functions of a vitamin D. What is advanced or later acquired is a hormonal things. It is mainly for skeletal homeostasis. Active vitamin D is done from the kidneys. It formed in the kidney, acts on the muscles and the skeletal tissue, regulated by the hormone, most important hormone being the parathyroid hormone. Important thing, whenever there is deficiency of a vitamin D, there is increase in the PTH. To some extent there is compensation in this function, means you will get more and more active vitamin D, and whatever skeletal effects you see mainly because of increased PTH on the bone. What is less known, or what I am going to tell you, is non-hormonal benefits of a vitamin D. It is a primitive function benefit, and the existence came much before the skeletal benefits came. It is mainly came for the host protection made by the macrophages and the monocytes. It is locally acting by cytokines. Most important, whenever there is a vitamin D deficiency, there is reduced active vitamin D. In a skeletal, there is some amount of a compensation. Here, there is no compensation. So there is vitamin D insufficiency or a deficiency. You are going to have a less of a active vitamin D, more chances for your cytokine-induced injury, and also predisposition for malignancy. So why women are at risk of vitamin D deficiency? One, obesity is more prevalent, more indoors, probably even the geographic location. Traditionally, whether it's a parda system or a burqa system, they are more covering of the body parts, and even the use of sunscreen agents to prevent tanning. How big is this problem? It is quite a big problem in India. Close to 100% in some studies, they have shown that there is vitamin D deficiency. I think in whichever study they have quoted, doctors and nurses have got the worst vitamin D levels. What is deficient is less than 10 nanograms. What is insufficient is less than 20. Anything more than 30 is ideal. To have a best effects, you should have between 40 to 60. And even the manifestation depends on the level of vitamin D. Whenever it is deficient, mainly we have got a short latency disease like a osteomalacia and rickets. Whenever it is insufficient, we get more of a non-hormonal effects like your infections, even cancers, and also the immunological disorders. What are the adverse outcomes associated with vitamin D deficiency in women? Whatever the observational and RCTs we have got, I will be discussing. Traditionally known for a bone mineralization, it increases the efficiency of the intestinal calcium. If somebody is absorbing 20%, they are going to absorb 60% if they are vitamin D sufficient. Deficiency results in rickets and osteomalacia. Sorry. Yeah. But once they are sufficient, there is reduced functional limitation, reduced falling, and reduced fractures. If there is deficient, it can precipitate and exacerbate osteopenia and osteoporosis. So all the RCTs, what they have shown is there is non-significant reduction in the hip fractures, but when they took a levels, when their vitamin D intake more than 800, there is statistically significant prevention of the hip fractures and also reduction of fractures across all age groups, not only in the postmenopausal, across all age groups. But effect on the muscle is more and more immediate compared to the skeleton. That's why in the rickets or osteomalacia, you have seen that the moment you start treatment, first the child or even adult is going to feel better by improving their muscle strength. What happens is whenever there is adequate vitamin D, there is more influx of calcium into the muscles and restored fast, whereas skeletal effects, they come later, close to 6 months. Enhanced data shows good vitamin D levels, all cause mortality is less, prevention of cardiovascular disease, even the peripheral vascular disease. This is mainly because increased PTH has been implicated in the cardiovascular disease outcomes. Increased PTH has got a worse CV outcomes. What about vitamin D and the diabetes? We know that type 1 diabetes mainly related to the autoimmunity and type 2 is insulin resistance. Studies have shown that good vitamin D levels, intake more than 500 units, there is reduced risk of developing metabolic syndrome and subsequent type 2 diabetes. And also the patients who were IGT, the progression is less whenever there is vitamin D levels are on the normal side. Higher the vitamin D levels, lesser the metabolic syndrome, lower the vitamin D levels, higher the metabolic syndrome. But all the results are inconsistent. There are pro and cons, but still we lack a good RCT in this field. The main benefit comes because it improves the insulin sensitivity at insulin receptor and a post receptor level. What about type 1 diabetes, which is immunologically mediated? This is a study which was done in Finland when children born were supplemented with vitamin D more than 2000 international units. They found that nearly 80% reduction in development of type 1 diabetes, which has been well proven. Is there any effect of immunological system on the vitamin D? It has been shown that vitamin D adequacy acts on innate and adaptive immune system. It changes the property of immunomodulation and prevents development of immunological diseases. What happens is there is less of Th1 cells, more of Th2 cells, hence there is reduction in the cytokines. It has been found to be useful in psoriasis, atopic dermatitis, rheumatological diseases, and also gene expression has been found to be useful whenever there is adequate vitamin D levels. It has been found that nearly 291 gene expressions have been found improved, and all these genes have got a variety of biological and metabolical benefits. What about vitamin D and a cancer? In a breast cancer and a colon cancer are less if vitamin D levels are in the normal level. Most important is a microbial killing. When I was an undergraduate student, our professor, whenever a person had a tuberculosis, along with ATT, they were prescribing a vitamin D. We never knew the benefits of a vitamin D then, but now we are learning more and more benefits of vitamin D. What it does is, it has been found that children with adequate vitamin D levels develop less upper respiratory tract infection. This is mainly because active vitamin D directs the production of cathelicidin, which is an intracellular microbial killing, hence prevents the progression, even the development of infections. This is a trial wherein they gave a placebo and a vitamin D, and they found that children and adults with vitamin D adequate levels, when they are given, they had a lesser respiratory tract infection compared to children who were given placebos. What about the role of vitamin D in female reproductive tissues? It has known to stimulate estrogen, even progesterone. IVF success rates are better when vitamin D levels are adequate. In a PCOS is a spectrum of a metabolic syndrome found to be useful with adequate vitamin D levels. And endometriosis, I think immunological mechanisms has been implicated in endometriosis. Adequate vitamin D levels are necessary to have a control over vitamin D levels. Regarding pregnancy, there are observational studies which show that preeclampsia, preterm birth, bacterial vaginosis, and gestational diabetes are less, but this needs to be confirmed on the large scale randomized studies. Then come how to replete. We have seen so much of a benefit of a vitamin D in a women's health, but how to replete it? Most cheapest and the best is exposure to the sunlight. For a lactating mothers, supplementation of the vitamin D. If child is not on breast milk, give a infant food needs to be fortified. Increase outdoor activities for all. If you are using sunscreen, use sunscreens less the SPF less than 6, and also outdoor activities for elderly and aged. Sun exposure is a free and effective. 20 minutes per day or 2 hours per week between 10 o'clock to 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. People with slightly darker pigmentation needs to be exposed more. For infants on nappy, 30 minutes per week is good enough to give adequate healthy vitamin D levels. Patients who are dark skinned probably require to expose more 5 to 10 times more. If you are unable to get exposed to the UVB rays, better take a foods which are rich in vitamin D. Salmon fish supposed to be good, not an ordinary salmon, it's a wild salmon, and also an irradiated mushrooms supposed to be better. What is the aim? Aim to achieve vitamin D levels more than 30 nanogram per ml. And this is an IOM statement which tells this is different age groups. You have got a different vitamin D levels. By and large, what has been found that 1000 international units per day is good enough to give adequate vitamin D levels. How to replenish vitamin D stores? Give vitamin D sachets or injections, maintain vitamin D levels continuously. Vitamin D3 is an animal source, D2 is a plant source. Both are effective, only vitamin D3 has a longer half-life, but D2 may be preferred in people who prefer vegetarian diet. Ensure 5 lakh international units over a period of 4 to 5 weeks. Give a period of equilibrium of another 4 to 5 weeks, then measure. If levels more than 30, give a monthly maintenance dosage and measure annually. Even check for a PTH and a calcium, because sometimes it can just precipitate primary hyperparathyroidism. If somebody doesn't normalize, you again give one more challenge, then check for compliance and a malabsorption. If both is not working, probably an adequate exposure to sunlight should be good enough, or a parental vitamin D preparation. Vitamin D has a quite safe therapeutic window. Up to 10,000 units per day supposed to be safe. So that whatever sachets we get, 60,000 per week, by and large should be adequate enough. Vitamin D toxicity, quite rare. Only somebody is taking parenteral or a large oral doses, levels more than 100, ideally more than 150 are the toxic doses. To, I think, summarize, vitamin D is very important right from infancy, childhood to the senility. In a childhood, it is important to prevent rickets, type 1 diabetes, asthma, respiratory tract infection. In a pregnant woman for a GDM and preeclampsia, preterm deliveries, reduced C-sections, bacterial vaginosis, and a good IVF success rate. In an adult, to prevent osteomalacia, metabolic syndrome, PCOS, obesity, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, cancers, and multiple sclerosis. One more minute. And in elderly, cognitive involvement, osteoporosis, osteomalacia, to prevent falls, fractures, and a proximal myopathy. Thank you for your patient hearing.